So open access is one of the key things within this, because if we can see how the research can have a greater impact on the region through being open, then people in the community can access that information without having to incur a high cost. And they can use that to change their practices and improve their practices and ultimately end up with better economic outcomes for the region. My research is using open source software, from everything for the analytics software using R and RStudio, through to some of the GIS platforms using ArcGIS, all of which are open source. Data sources as well. Often my preference is to go for open access data sources. As a research student, you have a finite amount of resources. So high cost of purchasing data access when there's an open source available is a fantastic alternative way of doing it. And that's everything from geographic databases through to the raw data to begin with. So you're using a range of data sources, and it's just making sure that you've got ones that are open and accessible. Outside of my PhD, I also work in an R&D role for a local SME. We produce instrumentation that's used heavily by the scientific community, and we use their research to help promote the products. So we mention when people have used the instruments in their research. The ability to have open access resource publications for those scientists means that we can actually share that much more easily with the wider non-scientific community, and again drive that adoption earlier on. We're no longer asking people to pay $40 or $50 to access a paper. They've got free access to that paper that the scientists have used. It's going to drive forwards everything, but it's also just going to keep their work in front of their colleagues as well. Bridge any town and gown divide. It's going to put the research really into the hands of the people who are going to end up using it. While some research, yes, is just going to stay within the research community, some research has an external application, but the researchers don't always have the capability and the capacity in their own workload to advance it into a commercial application. If it's published in an open access format, then people can adopt that, be early adopters, be innovative, and really progress forwards. Develop new approaches, do new knowledge, potentially new business opportunities as well on the back of those things, all of which are going to help regional economies or economies on a wider scale. Open access and open scholarships changing vastly, much faster I think than we give it credit for. Forward-thinking universities, forward-thinking academics are working more and more with it. They're producing more and more resources that are open access. It not only drives their profile, but it also drives the move towards this lifelong learning experience that we are continually discussing and moving more and more towards. If we can make all of these resources open accessible, then we can really enable people and empower people to take part in their own lifelong learning experience journey. Examples include some of the economics textbooks that are coming out of some of the universities in Europe, some of the books around using some of the big open source software. The reason why they need to be open and they need to be editable by a wide number of people is because things are changing. There are new discoveries all the time. We're no longer in this period of static resources, it's dynamic resources, it's moving forwards. So they need to be open and they need to be accessible, because if you leave it in a paywall environment, it's going to sit there and be dormant for too long. We need to accelerate that adoption through that curve faster.